I'm doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on it. They're not going to go to the Big Two. They're not going to get the invite. ESPN and Fox don't want them. Thanks for watching Numbskull News. And I'm doing it again. I'm making a video about the University of North Carolina. It's just the myth that keeps on giving. It never stops. Every swinging D that talks college football, that talks realignment, is saying University of North Carolina, the most sought after program by the Big Ten and the SEC, of course after Notre Dame. It's a myth. It's a myth based off of old information. All right, we know back in the day, a lot of things happened differently back in the day. But back in the day, the Big Ten, boy, they were hot and heavy on the heels of UNC, and UNC always turned them down. The SEC, back in the day, always tried to get UNC, and they turned them down. And a decision that UNC will regret moving forward. And are regretting right now. I'm just telling you, they absolutely are. But it's a myth to think that that is still the case. I know there are sources. Everybody has their sources. And they all kind of pretty much say the same thing. But who are these sources? Who are these sources? They're not ESPN sources. They're not Fox sources. They're, what? A few money people inside those conferences. You know, maybe some boosters. People of that ilk. You know, are any of these people school presidents? Maybe a few. Maybe a couple chancellors feel that way. These are people that have probably been in that school for a long time, part of that conference for a long time, and they are remembering why they wanted UNC for all the academics, right? Old Michael Jordan. Well, the thing I'm going to do in this video that's a little bit different, I'm really going to bust down these reasons for UNC going to the Big Two. And I'm going to myth bust every single one of them. I'm going to expose those myths for just that. Nothing based in reality. Not current reality. Present day reality. So, let's start with one of the newest things I've been hearing on why this is going to happen. Advertisers. Do you think for 2 seconds that the Big Ten or the SEC are hurting for advertising dollars with the brands they have and the type of viewership that they receive? No. Let's start with the Big Ten. Okay? They're not in North Carolina, ninth most populated state, right? You got a high earning class of fans there, viewers. Not a lot of them. Not a lot of them, but they're there. Okay. Ask me this. Do you want to get into North Carolina if you're Fox, or do you want to get into Florida if you're Fox? Well, why don't we do both? Well, how many schools are going to go to the Big Ten? Is it 2 more, 4 more, 6 more, 8 more, 10 more? How many do you think they're going to include until there's no return on investment? How many dilutive schools? I mean, think about it. How many schools out there are just non-dilutive that actually make you money? Not that many. Not on the Big Ten's financial level. And their deal is up in 2030. They're going to get paid even more money. So you have to look to the future on what that money is going to look like. How much is Fox wanting to pay for what kind of school? FSU, get you into Florida, huge fan base, win. Miami. All right, big national fan base, legendary program, AAU status in the city of Miami, big time prestigious city to be in. I mean, how many times have they had the Super Bowl? That's a perfect fit. Either one of those is a better fit than UNC. So if I'm worried about my advertisers, I think my advertisers would rather be in Miami. And think about this from the Big Ten's perspective, from Fox's perspective. They're already in New York City. They're in LA. They're in Chicago. They're in the biggest markets in the country. They don't need North Carolina. North Carolina needs them. Okay? It's the other way around. The SEC. The SEC is going to take North Carolina, who's not a football brand, by the way. They're a basketball brand. The football's decent. Football's decent, gets decent viewership. It ain't worth the money, because this money is being generated through football. ESPN is paying the SEC for their football. And here lately, as good as the SEC is in basketball, that's just a cherry on top. And as far as academics go, ESPN does not give two randy shits about your academics. It's not about that. It's about business. And as far as the SEC goes, as far as ESPN goes, they're already in North Carolina with 4 teams from the ACC. Not only the University of North Carolina, but Wake Forest, Duke, and NC State. So what are you talking about getting into North Carolina for your advertisers? The SEC, they have their advertisers, but that's based off of brand value. Each individual school has their own deals. The conference in total has sponsorship deals. But it's ESPN that makes the most money through advertisers. That's why they pay the SEC what they pay. All right, they pay them shit tons of money for their media rights, so therefore they can have huge matchups with huge viewership, and they can sell that to advertisers. Now you could say, well, they can make even more money if they got UNC, so that UNC plays Alabama and Texas and Georgia and wah. Well, let's take a look at Rutgers being in the Big Ten. Has that really helped their viewership? All right, no. They don't get near the viewership that Nebraska gets. It hasn't really helped. And that's New York City. Just because a team moves to a bigger conference doesn't mean that conference gets you bigger viewership. You're still dependent on your fan base. And the fan base there in North Carolina doesn't support that much North Carolina football. Basketball, yes, not the football. And of course, it's not just the advertisers. It's also, hey, we got to get the carriage fees for the Big Ten or SEC network kind of crap. I've talked that all. I've been all over that topic. And again, if you're the Big Ten network, you'd rather have the Big Ten network in Florida than in North Carolina. You'd rather have it in Georgia with Georgia Tech. Although Georgia Tech is not the brand of UNC. And like I said about streaming, the linear model, cable, satellite, where your carriage fees are based out of, that's going away. We're going to a streaming future, a subscriber-based future. That's how ESPN's going to make its money in the future, is through subscribers, just like that's how Netflix makes its money. And keep in mind, Netflix makes, I don't know, a couple billion a month just off of subscribers. That's what ESPN is wanting to go to. And then we have the student apocalypse. The apocalypse. Academics. For one, the media partners, as I've just said a few moments ago, don't give two randy shits about academics. They just don't. They don't care if you have enough students through your halls of education. They don't care. They care about the viewership of your program and what that can do for them, how they can sell that advertising. No one's buying advertising according to what school has the most students. No one cares. And besides that, how does the SEC getting into North Carolina, how does that stabilize their student count for Mississippi State or Arkansas or Mizzou? How does that work? You would think having a couple prestigious academic brands like Texas A&M or the University of Texas, both in the fastest growing state in the union, big time. It is. Texas will exceed California in population in the 2030s. That's what I've been reading. So, how does North Carolina, how does someone else's great academic brand help you get students? That makes no logical sense. None. Zero. It'll help North Carolina get students. But that, like I said, how does that relate to Ole Miss? How does Ole Miss now get more students because UNC is in the SEC? That doesn't make any sense. None. And you already have dynamic brands. You've got one hell of a front porch in the SEC for your schools. UNC provides nothing. Nothing on that front. And the Big Ten? You expect me to believe Purdue and Northwestern or Penn State are going to have trouble getting students? They got to beat people away at USC. UCLA is packed to the gills. Oregon, Washington, they have no trouble getting students there. None. I don't... The Big Ten is not going to have a problem with this student apocalypse. So, I'm sorry. Any way, shape, or form you want to see academics, it has nothing to do with realignment. ESPN isn't going to pay for your academic future. Just not going to happen. And the final one I'll touch on today. The SEC wants to increase their value in basketball. And what do you hear? Hey, the Big Ten took UCLA because of the basketball. No, they did not take UCLA because of the basketball, nor the football. Not even their brand. They didn't take UCLA because they were in LA. They were already getting USC. It was USC that chose UCLA to go with them to the Big Ten. If they had chosen Oregon, it would have been Oregon. If they had chosen Washington, it would have been Washington. If they had chosen Utah, it would have been Utah. It's kind of like what everyone says about Notre Dame, right? If Notre Dame goes to the Big Ten, they can choose who they want to go with them, whether it's Stanford, Cal, Miami, whoever, UNC, whoever. If they go to the Big Ten tomorrow, they can have their pick of running mate. That was the deal with USC. I haven't seen that written anywhere publicly. That's just the only thing that makes any logical sense at all. And UCLA has decent viewership. They also have great basketball, legendary basketball, blue blood. So they had things to offer, but ultimately, it was USC getting him in as a running partner. That's it. That's why ultimately the Big Ten put them in there with a full membership. They got all the money right there with USC because of USC. If USC doesn't make that call and UCLA makes the call to the Big Ten, UCLA gets a big fat no. They're like, hey, talk to USC. We'll take you both. That's the answer they would have gotten. Nothing against UCLA, but that's just, I'm sorry, USC is the brand. The Trojans are the brand. Massive a massive get for the Big Ten. So yeah, they're like, if you want UCLA to come and you come, we'll take you both. That's how that played out. People act like UNC has that stroke. Oh, Big Ten and the SEC, they'll take NC State if they can get their hands on UNC. UNC isn't that brand. They're not USC. UNC is not USC. They're not Southern Cal. That isn't the state of California. That is not LA. Chapel Hill is not LA. I'm sorry. They're not the brand of Notre Dame. We're talking football here. Notre Dame, regardless, track and field, anything, it's a massive brand. Massive brand. UNC is not that. They are a big brand, absolutely. But you have to be a big brand in the right kind of way. UConn's a big brand. Gonzaga's a big brand. Kansas is a big brand. But let's don't act like UNC is Alabama or Ohio State. That's the level Notre Dame is on. That's the level USC is on. UNC is not that. Y'all are full of just propaganda. A lot of people are. These are myths. These are myths, people. They don't have that value because it's based, and I'm sorry, I get accused of, you're just seeing it through football lenses. Well, what do you think realignment's about? Is it really about academics? Then why isn't Stanford in the Big Ten? Someone tell me that. Why would you take Oregon over Stanford if it's about academics? Because it's not about academics. That's why. Just look at everything that's gone on the last several years. This current iteration of realignment, which will continue into the early 2030s, into the mid 2030s. There's stages of it. The next stage is the ACC stage, which will be ripped apart, piece by piece, year after year, starting somewhere around 2030. So overall, people, this is why I don't believe UNC goes to the Big Ten or the SEC. Because every reason that I'm given whenever I watch, whether it's YouTube, I watch ESPN, or I watch Fox Sports, or anyone who talks about this stuff, anyone who talks about realignment, when they come to the point of UNC, it's always based off of old information or old technology. Got to get into the state. It's based off of student apocalypses, advertisers. It's based off a bunch of myths that aren't true or are no longer true. Carriage fees, stuff like that. Yeah, that's why you go get Rutgers if you're the Big Ten. Get into that market. Advertisers, carriage fees for the Big Ten network. It's a monster get for them. Maryland too. But if it was today and Rutgers and Maryland were not in the Big Ten, would they get the invite? No. No, they wouldn't. Not today. But in the olden days, yeah, it made sense for that economic environment. This is a new economic environment. This is the drum I keep beating. Could I be wrong? Yeah. We'll have to see, but everything that I research, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I can see them going to the Big 12. I can see ESPN being very happy with UNC in the Big 12. There's not enough money value. There's not enough money that can potentially be made off the back of North Carolina football to make it worthy to go to the SEC. To pay for that amount of money. It ain't there. That's all I'm saying. If you have another reason, please put it in the comments. All right, I'll research that. More than likely, I'm just telling you, more than likely, it's a myth. And I know there's a lot of sources, a lot of national people that say this stuff. But sources don't always get it right. They just don't. So, I'm doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on it. They're not going to go to the Big Two. They're not going to get the invite. ESPN and Fox don't want them. At least not in those conferences. Big 12, yeah. I know you love to hear that. Anyway, thanks for watching this crap. I'll be back with some more crap later. Bye.